First, the idea is weaken from within before you attack from without. And the internet space is being very intelligently used by CCP actors for that in a way which I do not believe. In India, we got it. Prime Minister Modi got it. He banned TikTok. I mean, is it banned in the United States? No. Now, India has passed a law banning, basically putting under the screen, which basically means approval is never going to come. I mean, technically, it's not banned, so you can't be WTO, non-compliant, but it has to go through security appraisal, which may take its own time to come. Telecom, energy, all these key systems. India is saying no under Prime Minister Modi. It's not happening in the United States. It's not happening in Europe. And this is the point. Now, this is why I told you before, Hamas rallies in favor of Hamas across the Western world. More rallies than in Gaza. A social media conversation that portray the Jewish people as the criminals, as the basically not the victims of terrorism, but as the terrorists almost. I'm going through social media conversation in the Western world. I've asked my research team to scroll through that, and they've come up with some pretty scary findings about how the social media conversation is so lopsided against Israel's right of self-defense against an existential threat from Hamas.
I gotta interrupt there because I've kind of noticed this. Like there's a bunch of like pro Hamas accounts that will be like, messaging me, and like if I look at these accounts, they're like new accounts that only have like one or two posts, and this is something I used to notice from pro CCP accounts. And so you have mentioned that the CCP will sort of use anything to beat whatever it considers its main opponent, like how it teamed up with the U.S. against the Soviet Union. Do you think the CCP is now using the conflict in the Middle East for its own purposes of toppling the U.S.?
I would only like to say that everybody in the US is talking about Iran. Guess which superpower is fully backing Iran? Number one, of course, I don't believe the Iranians want to get involved in this conflict. I don't believe that, but a different matter. But Iran is now what I would call the lizard's tail. The cat is chasing after the lizard's tail, and the lizard, which is the CCP, is escaping. The fact is that, if you look at social media, the kind of development of Wahhabism, the kind of anti-Jewish feeling, the kind of anti-Israel feeling, the kind of feeling against Hindus, against Jews, and against Christians, if I may say so, and against moderate Muslims, that is being spread all over. If you look at that, it's very clear who's benefiting from this. That's why in the Ukraine war, I said from the beginning, the CCP wants this war to go on and on and on and on. And they would like this war to go on and on and on and on. And they would like other wars to go on and on and on and on. Because Uncle Xi needs a fourth term if he's to survive, in politics or whatever else. And by the time his third term comes to an end, he needs a military victory. On the Indian side, the Indian soldier, frankly, is proved to be a bit of a problem for the PLA. The PLA boys are just not up to the Indian soldier. And you have Prime Minister Modi, who, by the way, all these CCP accounts, Wahhabi accounts, etc., there's a coordinated campaign to portray Modi as some kind of a, anti-democratic, dictatorial force. For God's sake. And a lot of these are Pakistani websites. In Pakistan, the minority community is below 2%. It was nearly 40% in partition. In India, the Muslim community was about 35, 36 million. Today it's 200 million. And we're talking about Muslim genocide in India? Give me a break. The Western world is talking about Muslim genocide in India. The Western world is saying you're discriminating against Muslim because you're suggesting a law that everybody should have only one wife. How many people, citizens of the United States, no matter what your religion, are allowed to have more than one wife? I know you have some situation in Utah with the Mormons. But
that's not technically legal.
Right. Those are with sister wives, so they're not like legally wives. But that's, it's generally frowned on in the United States.
Well, I would say it's illegal in the United States. But when we say it's illegal and we want to make it illegal in India, oh my God, you're being against your different community. You're being anti-Muslim, for God's sake. That's That is ridiculous. The
Well, hey,
Muslims.
to be fair, I have heard people argue in the United States that promoting monogamy is white supremacy.
Well, I'm monogamous, I can tell you, and I mean,
I think that's the first time I made you speechless.
well, it's difficult to make an Indian speechless, especially from my home state of Kerala. We speak very, very fast, and we speak a lot.
Well, so this is the question that I always have. How do you beat communism? It seems like it's such an insidious thing, not just CCP, but this ideology. It's so pervasive and so corrosive. It seems. How do you beat it?
Right. I mean, you've got communist ideas in India. They've been in Indian politics for generations. They've been in the Middle East and some of those groups like Hamas. There's some communist ideas, right? So it's kind of
the whole defense of Hamas in the U.S. too, like the idea that, like, oh well, the Israelis are the oppressors, so anything Hamas does is justified. That's very much a Marxist oppressor. Like anything the oppressed do to the oppressors is justified.
Yeah. So how do you beat this?
Look, first of all, I'd like to say you beat it by fair treatment of everybody. India is still the chairman of the G20. And Prime Minister Modi's motto is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family, one earth, one future, and that is the message. We are seeing, unfortunately, from the 1980s onwards, I would say from the 1970s onwards, growing inequality in some parts of the world. We are seeing a larger and larger proportion of the national wealth being held by a smaller and smaller number of people. And that, I think, is a problem area. You cannot have a system in which there is growing inequality. You have to have a system in which the middle class expands, the lower class contracts, and the middle class grows. Then the middle class grows into the upper class. Today, you have a system by which middle class is migrating to the lower class. And the upper class may be improving a little bit, but not by enough. And the hold they have on resources is incredible. I mean, many of these individuals who are promoting a woke ideology, they're worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. So it's wonderful. I wish that they would give away their billions first before embracing a woke ideology. But I'd like to say that increasing inequality in the capitalist system is becoming a great argument for what is now defined as communism. And what is defined as communism is naked authoritarianism. The communist machine is the leader knows best and the leader knows all. And you should follow. I mean, it's like it's a military kind of thing. The field marshal tells you do this, down the line, you do it. No questions asked. But of course, up the line, obviously there'll be in the communist system, this is the de facto communist system. So I think it's important for us to distinguish between the Chinese people and the top ranks of the CCP and the Communist Party, if I may say so. You have to distinguish between communism as taught by Marx and Engels, where you say, from each according to his ability or her ability, and to each according to his or her need. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. The world has enough for human need. The world doesn't have enough for human greed. It's very similar to what Gandhi said. But if you look at the communist world, it's very different from the Gandhian world. So I think the first thing is basically to understand what is the objective reality of communist practice. Forget communist theory. We have scholars who have studied decades of communist theory. Marx, Engels, Mao, Stalin, Lin Biao, even Xi Jinping. Forget all that. What they're writing and what they're practicing are different. We have to expose what they practice. Now, in the case of social media, for example, what Hamas has been practicing. There would be so many stories out there. And as and when more areas get liberated, hopefully these stories will come out. But they've hardly ever come out. Gaza has been a black hole of information. So far as Hamas is concerned, nobody knows what they're doing in Hamas. Only when those Israeli babies were butchered, and that's happened to the people in Hamas in Gaza, who are against Hamas. It is a black hole. So I think first, you have to ensure that there is a situation by which the lower classes seep into the middle class and the middle class seep into the upper class, and the upper class doesn't have a disproportionate share of resources globally and in terms of a country. And I would say, for example, the top 10%, if they have more than one third of the resources of a country, there's something wrong with the capitalism practiced in that country. And if the bottom 50% have less than, let us say, let's put it at one third of the total resources, the bottom 50%, there's something wrong with that particular form of capitalism.